So that's just super cool. Oh, wow. Okay, I admit that I'm a bit of a plant dork, but I will be walking along any given day and find a leaf. And this is a very special leaf. It's a very weird leaf called a tulip tree leaf. So immediately I find this and I'm going to look up and I'm going to look around and I'm going to take a look at the canopy and go, there it is. Okay, there's our tulip tree. So this is a native tree, another Carolinian species, which means it's from a particular climatic zone that runs up through the center of North America, through Carolina, and pretty much ends in this part of the world, although that's changing as time goes by. But tulip tree, now this one has been badly damaged by an ice storm, but this is a lovely tree that has flowers that are tulip shaped that go from green to orange. It's got great winter interest from the seed heads. It is food for tiger swallowtails, which is cool. Just a really overall neat tree. And you'll be surprised what you can see by looking down more than looking up sometimes. Right beside it, by the way, well, there's actually a couple of things we can talk about here. This is eastern redbud. This is cercis, and it's a lovely tree that blooms before the leaves even come out in the spring. And this is red twig dogwood. And red twig dogwood is a plant that is often badly pruned. So people will globe these at the mall, and it drives me up the wall because they don't live very long. Here what they've done is classic really good pruning, where every year they take out 1/3 of the eldest growth. So you don't actually see really good pruning, sadly, very often. The alternative would be to coppice it, to cut it all the way to the ground, but to take out 1/3 of the eldest growth keeps it nice and fresh and rejuvenated, and keeps these nice red twigs in this particular instance as well, which gives you more winter interest. And this is another great native plant that in this case is good for a little blue butterfly that we call a blue. So behind this is a lesson in names to a degree. So this is called a columnar European hornbeam, Carpinus betulus fastigiatus. And fastigiatus means upright. You could also call it columnaris. And not all the columnar things are very columnar. So this tree at best is kind of short and fat. And it should be, no judgment, it should be tall and narrow if it has a name like columnaris or fastigiatus. So sometimes common names, and in this case botanical names, can be really misleading. Great plants are all around us and are suitable for each different situation. So we're going to look at some larch trees here, and we want to tell which kind of larch they are. So we're going to take a cone here, and we're going to take a look at that cone. So larch is another deciduous conifer. Deciduous means it drops all the leaves in the wintertime, the needles in this case. So we already saw Don redwood, the plant that was discovered in 1942. Which larch is this, he asks himself. This is European larch, Larix decidua, and I know that because the cone is large. It's a large cone. And Japanese larch, these petals, scales reflex back, so it's almost fluffy. And our Canadian larch, or tamarack, or if you're down east, hackamattack, has a little tiny cone like a hemlock, which we'll see later on. But that's, again, the cones are how you tell these plants apart. Also, this one has slightly brighter twigs. They're more yellowy, although I find that sort of thing much less reliable than the cones themselves. So earlier I mentioned that this is a rain lake. This whole neighborhood is designed to flow into what we see behind us here. And you can see clearly here how it's designed to fill up all the way and then go back down. There are outputs at the bottom for regular flow, and then there's actually a grate at the top in the center there that would take the overflow. If it ever came all the way up, then the water could go that way, which is pretty cool actually. So a couple of things worth talking about here. We're in Hamilton at the base of the escarpment, and this is super clay soil here. There is no bad soil. Sandy soil, not bad. Clay soil, not bad. You just have to match the plants to the soil, and there are a huge list of plants for every situation. So in clay soil, for instance, two good trees are red and white oak. So behind us, this is a plant It's in the red oak group. Red oaks and their relatives tend to have pointy lobes, and white oaks and their relatives tend to have rounded lobes. And they hold their leaves through the winter, and that is called having a poor abscission layer. So an abscission layer is the layer of cells that dies and allows a leaf to fall away. And in these, the cells die, but it doesn't let the leaf fall away. And you'll see that these two oaks, this is probably pin oak, which is a close relative of red oak, and also suitable for rain gardens and poor drainage. Quercus palustris, and palustris means of the swamp. And this is something in the white oak group, might actually be a white oak. And you can see the easy to tell difference between these two leaves. If this were red oak, the lobes would be less deep, but it would have these same little pointies. So that just sort of kind of gets us going on oak identification, but is also a noteworthy talking point about soil and matching the plants to the soil. I'm usually all about native species, but this is a relative of our witch hazel, that one. And it's particularly cool because this is a plant that blooms in January, February, March. It's pollinated by a little moth called an owlet moth, and it's just really a nifty concept that we can have plants blooming at this time of year, especially things that are so cool and beautiful like this. Now, I would site this outside a living room window or something like that, where people are going to be able to see it clearly and regularly. They can have beautiful fall color as well. And while we're here, there's one more interesting thing, which is the growth that's on this trunk. A lot of people are going to ask, what's that killing my tree? Well, it's not killing the tree. This is a plant called lichen, and there are many different species of lichen. This is one of the particularly cool ones. Right here you can see that there are actually a couple of different species here. That little guy and this guy are two different species. Lichen is an amalgam of organisms, a combination of algae and fungi. And the algae makes the food and the fungus collects the water, and they live together. There's other things in there as well, like cyanobacteria sometimes, and maybe sometimes different species of algae, but really overall, generally all around cool on both counts here. Visiting a park like this is pretty cool because pretty much no matter where you look, there are neat trees. This is Liquidambar, or sweet gum, and it's got this amazing winter interest from these almost nasty little mace weapon-like seed pods. And there's a few different varieties in North America. They have beautiful fall color. They have a star-shaped leaf, and they tolerate, in fact they love, really wet soils. And knowing what plants tolerate and perhaps thrive in wet soils is really important. Here's another one. This is river birch, and river birch is nice because it has, as it gets older, this beautiful exfoliating bark. Now this is kind of nifty because you'll note in a second that these are all sort of the same age. This guy here has distinctly different bark than either of these two. And that's noteworthy because they are probably all grown from seed. And plants grown from seed could have remarkably different characteristics from each other. But birches in general tolerate really moist situations as well. And then something you don't see every day, this is a beech hedge. And so this is European beech, Fagus sylvatica. And it is one of the few trees that hedges well, that you can make into a hedge and keep it that way for a long time. You can even rejuvenate it every several years, taking it back a long way. Beautiful in the winter time, the way it holds its leaves. And imagine doing a hedge out of purple beech and golden beech. That could be a really nifty tapestry as it got older. This is a lovely tree, a very unusual tree. This is a non-native tree. This is paper bark maple, and just like the birch that we saw where the bark peels away over time, this does the same thing. Great winter interest. This is a plant that can have beautiful fall color, but you would have to pick it in the fall, to choose it in the fall, because they're not all going to have equally cool fall color. Another great plant, switching to perennials for a moment, is big root geranium, an excellent ground cover for the shade, and lots and lots of cool stuff to see. This is a cultivar, or a chosen variety, of sparkleberry, and seconds ago there was a robin in this eating the berries, which I might have questioned whether a robin would eat the berries of sparkleberry or not, because they tend to be somewhere between medicinal and poisonous. They are often used to make people throw up, but late in the season those poisons might be broken down, or the birds might be more tolerant of it. But I just literally watched a robin plucking berries off here, and then he saw me and went, "Oh, cheese it! It's the videographer."